Hello, welcome to Cindy's Library. I am Cindy, and today I want to talk about the Fall of Gondolin. So, as I said in my monthly wrap up, this is probably my second favorite of the three great stories from the First Age of Middle Earth. It's by J.R.R. Tolkien, edited again by Christopher Tolkien, gorgeous illustrations by Alan Lee. And so we have some amazing illustrations again. Let's see if I can find the one I'm looking for. There we go. Just love Olmo rising up out of the sea before the human Tuor. And we again have Alan Lee's. They're more sketches than anything, but they are still amazing. But what is the Fall of Gondolin? Well, it's a long story, but the basic plot is you have Tuor. He is the son of Huor, who is the brother of Hurin. And Hurin is the great hero who was the father of Turin Turambar from the children of Hurin. Anyway, after I think it was the Neonath Arnoidiad, Battle of Unnumbered Tears, huge defeat, lots of destruction, but Huor never returned home since he died in that battle, and that left Tuor to be raised as best as he could be in what had now become enemy territory, essentially. Becomes basically something of an outlaw and a wanderer until he wanders to the ocean, possibly the first human to have ever done so. And there he meets Ulmo, Lord of Waters, one of the Valar themselves, with a message for Turgon, the Elven King of the hidden kingdom of Gondolin. And, Ulmo provides some help for Tuor to be able to get there. Of course, things get complicated when he gets there, because the king of the place, Turgon, likes him, but won't listen to Ulmo's message. He falls in love with the king's daughter, Idril, and makes an enemy of Maeglin, the king's nephew, who loves Idril as well, and things go on from there. What is interesting about this story, though, is that there are a few what you could call summaries of the Fall of Gondolin, etc. And it was actually the first story Tolkien wrote way back in, I think it was 1917, while he was recovering from trench fever. And he actually wrote it to, I forget which society at Oxford, where he was supposed to read a paper, and apparently it did well enough. And that's, well, I won't say it was the first germ of Middle Earth, but it was the first extensive one, certainly. And so he wrote a whole Lost Tales version, the first of the Lost Tales he ever wrote, even though it comes towards the end. the actual timeline. And the first one he ever wrote. And from that, the rest of the Lost Tales came into being, and so on and so forth. Then you have the summary versions in things like uh, the Lays of Valerian, Sketch of the Mythology, the Kenta Nolorena. All of those were done before Tolkien got distracted by The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And then while he was waiting for The Lord of the Rings to be published, and taking several years arguing with Alan and Unwin that they needed to publish the Silmarillion first, he went back and started working on Silmarillion material, including not a Lost Tales version of the Fall of Gondolin, but a full narrative version of the Fall of Gondolin. So it sounds closer to The Lord of the Rings than it does other parts of the Silmarillion, as Christopher Tolkien published it after his father's death. And Tolkien only got to the part where Tuor arrives at Gondolin and sees it for the first time, and then he never comes back to it, which is very... There are several things it would have been amazing if Tolkien had finished them, but the full narrative version of The Fall of Gondolin, I think that's probably #1 on my list, seriously, because it is so amazing. But sadly, it did not happen. So, but we can enjoy what we do have. Aside from the Fall of Gondolin proper, gives us just enough of the background so we know where Tuor's story begins. He also inserted a little bit of where Turgon actually came up. Well, I should say was inspired with the idea of Gondolin by Ulmo. And we also get what happens afterwards, a bit from the story of Eärendil, which, unlike any of the 3 main great tales, was supposed to be even greater and as long as all the rest, and was never actually really written down more than in summary forms. So, oh, Tolkien, why did you stop? But the story that we do have as it is wonderful. Highly recommended. And unlike both of the other 2 tales, which have poetic versions of more or less significance, you don't have to contend with any poetry for the Fall of Gondolin, really. So, there is that, for those for whom poetry is a struggle. And I count myself among them, but I still love the Lay of Leithian. So, anyway, that is The Fall of Gondolin, and I'd love to hear if you have read it, and if so, what you think about it. Feel free to comment down below. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading!